The Rio Puerco of New Mexico is one of the highest degraded soil features on the planet. It was started by a road cut decades ago and ended up becoming so degraded that small villages had to be relocated. Later, an effort to plant salt cedar to control the erosion ended up creating more problems than it solved, so the salt cedar was treated with a herbicide. Unfortunately, this left the river's edge vulnerable to more erosion, which took place during massive flooding several years later. Overgrazing, drought, and other factors continue to plague this area, and now a good amount of the Rio Puerco sits at the bottom of Elephant Butte Reservoir downstream. Remember our soil triangle? This diagram helps us to understand soil composition, but also about how these different soils might respond to the many factors that contribute to soil erosion. The soil is made up of particles that either help it or keep it from holding itself together when it's attacked by outside forces that want to tear it apart. We call this aggregate stability. In this case, this soil doesn't have much of it. Now I know that most soil nerds will want to thump me on the head and say how dirt isn't soil, but we'll leave that for a soil nerd discussion later. My point is that something is stealing our dirt, soil, or the earth from under our feet, and you need to know about it. Now we all probably know what causes erosion, but do we really pay attention to it? Remember our discussion about organic matter? Well, if something is stealing your dirt, then your organic layer is gone with it, and that's pretty important when you're trying to grow and take care of your grass. Some of the most obvious and easily seen causes of erosion are physical disturbance followed by water or wind, such as plowing, road building, etc. Did you know that much of the topsoil along the course of the Mississippi River is sitting at the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico? A lot of that is due to plowing and exposing soils during agricultural practices. But then there's fire, especially in what we call severe burns, where even the plant roots are burned and are unable to anchor the soil. Water and wind come along and wash the blackened soil down into valleys, often causing dangerous mudslide situations. But then there's the not so obvious, such as disruptions in the soil-vegetation relationships. When vegetation is slowly removed by constant grazing by any animal, the soil is easily washed away, exposing the lower and harder layers of the soil horizon that offers very little support to plants that need nutrients in softer soil where their roots can grow. Well, how can you prevent all of this? 1, you keep your soil healthy and covered. And 2, you get help in restoring areas that are problematic. For recently burned areas, talk to a fire ecologist. They'll likely tell you to give the soil time to recover before you think about reseeding or disturbing recently burned soils. Drought will also play a big role in the recovery time of your soils. The NRCS has loads of information to help you, and the Quivira Coalition has a wonderful erosion guide on their website that uses natural materials to restore areas. Check it out.
Okay, let's talk about the fascinating topic of available water capacity, which is actually pretty important. This is the maximum amount of water that's available to the plants. In other words, this is how well the soil is able to retain water and make it available for plant use. If the water runs off or filters through too fast, it's obviously not available for plant use. If the soil is too clayey, all the water is being hogged up by the clay. The available water capacity is the water held in the soil between field capacity and the permanent wilting point. What's that? Field capacity is the water remaining in the soil after it's been thoroughly saturated and allowed to drain freely. That's on the left side of the middle graphic. In sandy soil, that's going to be temporary because it all drains out pretty quickly. You can see that on the far left graphic. The permanent wilting point is the minimum amount of water in the soil that the plant requires not to wilt, and that's on the far right. Once a plant reaches this point or below, it fails to recover even when you give it water. So, your available water capacity is affected by soil texture, rock fragments, and soil depth in its layers. Rock fragments reduce available water capacity because of the big pore spaces. Soil depth and restricting root layers, like clay, can also affect the total available water capacity. That's because there's less organic matter and higher salt concentration. Salt sucks up the water and holds it in, kind of like what happens when we eat a whole can of Pringles. So ideally, you want your available water capacity to be somewhere in the middle, where it says optimum range. How will you know all this? By measuring your available water capacity. Again, go back to your NRCS sheets for more information, and then watch those videos. Some of us may have attention deficit disorders when it comes to foundational principles of our landscapes. That used to be me. But let me guarantee you, if you don't understand how the soil functions and how it affects every living thing that lives on our landscapes, then the rest of the puzzle will not come together for your rangeland problem-solving efforts. If you didn't absorb some of this material effectively, then go get a big cup of coffee and review it again when you're not just getting off of work or having just finished homeschooling your kids. You'll be glad that you did. I don't know about you, but I sure need a big cup of coffee just to recover from this presentation. Take care, everyone, and see you next time.